course, what happens in Europe is that globally or largely everyone is complaining, oh my God, there are lots of immigrants in the UK, lots of immigrants in Germany. Either they were forced there or they were forced because of economic reasons and the destruction of their country by these same colonial powers. Or maybe they were brought in there to work or to replace a dying population. Because if you want any lasting change in immigration, your job is to go out there and talk to your government as to what you do not want. If you want Okay, let's slow things down a bit and talk about my last video and what is going on there. The comment section is a chaos because my video managed to reach a part of the internet that is not actually meant for. So those were not my target audience. I'm not talking to Europeans. My target audience are Africans who want to maybe relocate, come and study or work in Europe. These are my target audience. Somehow it got to this group of people, and yeah, of course, we know what to expect from Europeans when they meet a video of this kind of nature. In this video, I'm going to be addressing those Europeans who were on my last video and also my African brothers, and I'm going to be talking about three things. I'm going to be talking about the reason why we have this channel and why it is important for you Europeans and why this channel is also in your own favor. That is if you care to hear about it, and it's okay if you don't want to. Number two, I'm going to take you on a bit of education about immigration, and then finally I'm going to be talking to my people, the Africans who are in Africa looking to move over to Europe or to other parts of the world, about what to expect moving forward. So without wasting any further time, let's go to number one. Why do this channel exist? Now, if you have watched maybe a couple of my videos in the past, you will see that this channel exists to educate and enlighten people who wish to travel from Africa to relocate to any other part of the world, not just Europe, USA, every other part of the world, but majorly we have been focusing on Europe because that is where bulk of the knowledge lies in. But in a broader sense of it, we talk about relocation to any part of the world, not just Europe. And the second thing in that number one is that we talk here about legal migration or legal relocation for people who want to go and study and work in Europe legally. There is nothing illegal about what we do. In fact, we do not condone illegal migration on this channel. We talk strictly about how to go to the embassy, how to submit your document, how to make sure that you are meeting the right requirements of the country, how to make sure that you're going to come into the country to become someone to contribute to the society and to the economy. In fact, we are here to give people the updates and changes in the immigration policies of different countries, and that's what we have been doing for quite a while. So this is the bed of this channel. So why is this important to you? This is important because most of you people who came into my comment section on the last video, they were clear about the fact that we are talking about illegal immigrants. The protest was about illegal immigrants and not real or legal migrants. Yes, this video or things like this, channels like this exist because it gives us the power to tell the people in Africa about the legal changes, which also in turn gives you the power to go to your government to seek for legal changes in legal immigration. Now, of course, if you want a reduced population or a reduced number of people to come into your country year after year, what you do is you take this up with the government. The government makes changes, just like we are doing in the UK right now, whereby they are reducing the amount of years it takes you before you get a citizenship or before you get longer legal stay. You can take that up with your government. By the time the government makes this harder, as they are doing in the UK now, we update the people in Africa about this is what is happening. And guess what? Then they can decide, oh, do we want to come or do we not want to come? So which makes what we're doing here very important, to your own cost, to probably stop migrants from coming to your country, which is just a joke. Now let's go into a little bit of education about immigration and migrants into different countries. Now, of course, what happens in Europe is that globally or largely everyone is complaining, oh my God, there are lots of immigrants in the UK, lots of immigrants in Germany, lots of immigrants in France, lots of immigrants in Spain, Portugal, all of this country. One thing I always ask Europeans is, ask yourself a fundamental question. What was the bedrock of these thousands of people in your country? Because thousands of people did not just appear in Europe. Thousands of Africans, or maybe people from the Middle East or other places did not just appear in Europe in one day. What was the bedrock of these people coming into your country? If the answer to such a question is something like colonialism or maybe the Second World War, let's say the Windrush generation. Now, if the answer to that question are things like this, the next thing we follow would be, can this be fundamentally changed? And if the answer is no, then you know that you probably cannot fundamentally change the amount or the atmosphere of immigration in your country right now. Because largely, most major immigration that had happened in the past were not the cause of those who immigrated into the country. It was caused by the country for which the people immigrated into. Either they were forced there, or they were forced because of economic reasons and the destruction of their country by these same colonial powers. Or maybe they were brought in there to work or to replace a dying population because of the Second World War. And this is history, this is clear history. And most of you, of course, are not educated on this. So you do not know. All you know is you were born and you woke up and you saw Africans everywhere, and therefore Africans are bad and not supposed to be there. You don't know the fundamental reason why they were there in the first place. And if you can ask yourself this question and find the answer to it, then you can probably know the answer to a potential future with less immigrants. Okay, let's also go further to talk about the desire to stop legal migration, right? People who come to study and work. And let me tell you for a fact, your government knows what they are doing. The European government knows what they're doing. In fact, they are masters of shifting the major problems, removing the focus of the European people from the major problem to little groups like immigrants. The government is quite aware the billions of dollars and euros that legal migration brings into the economy from people who come to study, or from people who just come to visit, or people who come to work, people who are just, even applying at the embassy and getting rejected. They know the billions which it brings into the economy. Therefore, what they do is every 4 years or 5 years, depending on what the country's political system is like, they come and run on the grounds of immigration. Oh my God, there are lots of people in the country, which was not actually just the fact of legal immigration. It was actually also the fact of the colonialism and other things that came before that, right? They come and run on that ground, distract the people from the major problem, taxation and the rest of them, right? They distract these people and they come into power. What do they go ahead to do? They create other legal ways for people to come into the country, which will still bring in billions, and then which will give the next government that is coming in grounds again to work on or to campaign on immigration. Now, this has been the European playbook for so long. Every other year, they complain about immigrants, but guess what? Once a new government comes into power, they start opening pathways to migrate over. Even some of them help illegal immigrants come into the country, just so that they can have this political unrest upon which they keep, campaigning and, going over and confusing the people. This is a classical and beautiful playbook, I must say. And the European governments have actually learned this very well and are taking advantage of their people so much. And it's actually very, very unfortunate to see. The truth of the matter is, if you want any lasting change in immigration, your job is to go out there and talk to your government as to what you do not want. If you want a cap to be put in, talk to your ministers, talk to the people in the parliament, on a grassroots level first. Then they take it up to the state. And once they pass any law, guess what? Channels like this exist to tell people, hey, listen, last year you could come in through this means to study, but this year you cannot come in. Let's take a typical example of the fact that right now in Poland, as a student, you can no longer work except you have 2 work permits. Now, this is something that can deter someone who wants to come to Poland from coming. But also someone can say, okay, I don't care. I will come and I wouldn't work. And then after studies, I'm going to work. And that is it. So the bottom line is, when it comes to people migrating and moving from one country to another, it can never be stopped. It has been like that through history. Most times in the past, it was through conquest and coming over to, to plunder the land, which, like the UK and Europe, is actually a big, it's a big part of your history, conquest and, subduing people. And right now, it's more on the legal grounds and also sometimes on the illegal route of people coming in through certain means. The final thing on this matter would be, if you have any problem with immigration, take it up with your government and we will be here to update the people as to what the changes are. Finally, for the Africans who are listening to me, this should show you, this should be an eye-opener to you that most of these places where we want to run to, you are not being accepted, you are not loved, you are not liked, you are not cherished in those places, right? Which then will trigger the question before you travel: why do you want to travel? Do you really need to travel? Because I see people selling off their properties, lands, bringing up millions of naira or even dollars that they can use to start up a business that can thrive in the country. And they would rather say, let me take that money to relocate and spend it all in the relocation process, only to go to that country and start life afresh. Always ask yourself this question: are you willing to take the discomfort of not being accepted of being hated, of being, looked at as a burden to the nation, even when you are contributing a lot every single year? Are you willing to take that? And if you are not willing to take that, then you might want to reconsider traveling. But if you are willing to take that, then fine. You can always go along with us on this channel for the latest updates and changes in every single facet of the immigration. Actually, we are going to be looking at the UK immigration system and the changes that have just occurred, and we're going to be expanding on that in our next video. So stay tuned for that. And if you're a European watching this, thank you for watching. You can always leave your hate comments in the comment section. It's very much welcome. And if you are also an African watching this, it's time to reminiscence on the idea of travel and what you want to make out of it.